Well, good morning, Trevor. Good morning, everybody. We're coming to you live from the Gold Coast this morning at the Microsoft Australia Partner Conference. And for once in a blue moon, Trevor and myself are actually sitting in the same location. How are you, sir?
We are. It took me a little bit of time to track Roland down, but I did find him. He's a bit of a superstar down here at APC, I'd have to say. I think the trip that it takes to get from the hotel room to the conference centre takes probably three times as long for Roland. He knows everybody here, so a bit of a rock star. Good morning, Jacinta. How are you? So we're together, which is very unusual for us too, which is exciting for us. So we're going to cover off a few things. Roland, I'll let you tell everybody what we're going to talk about today.
All right, so we're going to give you a bit of an update of what's happening at the Australia Partner Conference. Trevor and myself have been here since Sunday, so it's really day 2 or day 3 for us. But what happens is the Australian Partner Conference is for organizations like HubOne, anything from HubOne, which is a relatively small partner, to something like Dimension Data, which has about 1,200 people in Australia, and I used to work for before I actually joined Microsoft, which was before I joined HubOne. So it's an amazing experience here. They bring speakers in from all over the world, and they give us the roadmap and really the skinny on what's happening with Microsoft technology over the next 12 months, so we can arrange our businesses and strategically align them and our go-to-market strategies and our technical strategies with what Microsoft is doing. The last thing Microsoft wants us to do is invest in an area that they are going to depreciate, which is a nice way of saying not spend any more money developing that solution. So, for example, you would remember public folders years ago used to be a big thing on Outlook. Everybody had public folders, and then they got depreciated. In other words, Microsoft said that technology we don't believe has a future moving forward strategically, so I want everybody to move the stuff that's currently on public folders to SharePoint. And hence, you see One Practice solution, or if you're still using the modern practice, running on SharePoint, using it as a document management system that 10, 15 years ago would have most likely been stored on public folders. So, Trevor, the big news this week. Well, firstly, there's been a couple of things going on in the keynote. I'm going to just show a couple of people some slides. If you look in the attachments, folks, you can see a couple of things that have been going on stage for us, and there's a few attachments there. If you followed Trevor on Twitter, what is your Twitter handle there, Trevor?
The Zero Hero.
The Zero Hero. So look up the Zero Hero, folks, and
also HubOne.
Oh, HubOne. Either of those two.
So at Zero Hero, at Zero Hero, or at HubOne. There's loads of photos and things coming through from there as well.
So please retweet that. We got some great mentions in the keynotes last night. And the photographs are in the attachments there. But the mentions were really around the work that we've been doing in the accounts vertical, doing fairly innovative solutions. Some of the stuff we've been doing with the chartered accountants got mentioned, and some case studies around the betas.
And they were really talking about the partnerships, weren't they, Roland? So they're really focused at Microsoft about partnering up, and that we partner and we share our resources. And that's where Pete Marlowe, the managing director of Microsoft, we got a huge mention from her, our logos and everything put up on the screen in the big lights, which was very, very exciting for us. So,
well, there's probably about 1,300 1,400 attendees, and about another 300-400 Microsoft staff here. So it's great news for us. But one of the things that there's been a lot of talk, and something I knew was coming up this week, Trevor, was around the changes in Skype for Business, and in particular, the dial-in conferencing. So I would really like to spend a little bit of time, because we're on a conference right now, okay? And, this conferencing technology that's in Skype for Business has been around for some time. I've been working with Skype when it was Office Communication Server, then it was Live Communication Server before that, and prior to that it was actually built into Exchange 2000. People said to me, Skype for Business is new for Microsoft. And when I was at Dimension Data back in 2001, we had 300 engineers using MS MSN. Remember Windows Messenger service? Well, that was some of the forerunners to Skype for Business. The issue why conferencing wasn't big back in those days, Trevor, was because most of us were using dial-up. Remember that?
You wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that sound. That sounds kind of mutually exclusive with video conferencing or any type of live communication. So at the moment, guys, you are all on a conference that you have joined using your PC and essentially voice over IP, VoIP. Some of you may be familiar with that term, but you're running voice not through a traditional telephony system.
That's right.
You're running voice over a computer connection. So, we go in there, we join it, we say, right, I want to connect up to a particular conference, and how you're going to join the Skype meeting. So what I want you to do is look at the screen now. On the screen at the moment, it says, join the Skype meeting, and you've got a number there to call for Redmond and a conference ID. So if you don't have access to a PC or a Skype client, even on your phone, and in reality, this isn't such a big issue because there's Skype clients for Android, iOS, every type of device that you can get out there. However, people still like to be able to dial in, and especially in countries where they may not have the connectivity that we've got in Australia, people still like to dial in. So what has been released last Thursday in Australia is some features around E5 SKU. Okay,
talk to me about E5, Roland. There's lots of hype around it. Everybody all of our clients and subscription clients are on an E3.
Yes.
So talk to me first about what's E3,
all right,
and then talk to me about what's E5. Where is this going to take us to, and so that our clients can sort of start to understand that.
All right, this is very good. There's a lot of talk about this. Yesterday we had a meeting with one of the key players at Microsoft, and I said, what are your objectives for FY17, financial year 17? And they said Azure and the E5 component. So let's talk about what is available in E5. In my mind, there are three pillars of E5. And I'm going to come to Skype last because Skype is one of the key pillars. But the first pillar that I'm going to talk about in E5 is the thing called Delve Analytics. All right?
Isn't that available in E3 now?
Delve is available in E3, but not Delve Analytics. Delve Analytics is part of E5. So if you guys click on your waffle, you'll see there's a Delve tab. You click on the Delve tab, Delve will be pushing documents to you that other people in your organization have been working on. So it uses an algorithm similar to a social network algorithm to push stuff to you. So if Trevor works on a document, here's one of my peers in my network. As he works on the document, it sends a signal on that document that he's worked on it, and that notifies me, provided I have permissions to be notified, provided I've got permissions to that document, otherwise it hides it from me. But if I've got permissions, Trevor says, Trevor's just finished this document that you were looking for, Rolly. So it's like search, but it's a push instead of a pull. Okay, so there, one of the key pillars, Delve Analytics. The next key pillar in my mind, PowerBI Pro. Yes, go.
Let's go back to that. So
okay,
we've all got Delve.
Yeah.
Analytics is what, though? What's analytics, though? You've described Delve.
Thank you very much. I missed the point entirely. All right. So the Delve Analytics is a way of seeing what you are doing on a daily basis. The Delve tells me Trevor's been working on that document, but for Trevor, he needs to know how long did he work on that document? How many meetings did he have last week? How long did you spend in email last week? How much time did you spend with other people in the organization? So your communication with someone like Dave, has that gone up or down in the last week? Okay, so
let's think of it practically for an accounting firm.
Yes.
Because accounting firms are really critical. We do timesheets on a daily basis to manage what we're doing, but this technology might be something when I start to talk to the developers and to Nick and all of those sort of things, we start to then think about, well, how can we use this Delve Analytics in a practical environment of an accounting firm? And the things that we're thinking about is it could do away with timesheets.
It could do away with timesheets. It's still early doors with Delve Analytics. And what I'm going to do, Trevor, because that's a great question, I'm going to just present my desktop here for a moment. And should be coming up for you now. All right. So this is your traditional valve that you've got, and I can see people have been working on documents, but if I click on analytics, it's going to give me business intelligence around my personal productivity. We may not see good results here because this is live data from Rolly. So I'm a little bit dubious of how I spent the last weeks, but let's just go. So this is my time last week. I spent 17.3 hours in meetings. My goal is to get below 10 hours. I spent 8.7 hours doing email. I had 10 hours of focus time, which is perfect. That is exactly on my goal. Now, focus time is time between meetings when I can actually sit down and do really productive work. If I scroll down,
it even says there that you've been working 3.1 hours outside of hours.
Outside, all right?
So you've got to put it in your calendar?
No, it reads you. Yes, it reads your calendar, okay?
Wow.
But it picks up when you were online in the cloud.
Wow.
So if I was online in Office 365, guys, it's not rocket science. It's like auditing what you do. You know, you're in an accounting firm, you might audit who's access to what document.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're using the timestamps on the documents here to do business analytics on your personal productivity. So you know what I like this for accountants? Remote workers.
Yeah.
I open up an office in Wagga.
But if we start to then think then about the activity-based working environment, this is what this is all built around. So we're starting to then think less about working in the office, but more about productive time and focus time and all of those sort of things that are going to get it. So it gives you that ability to have people working from home, working away from the office and all of that sort of thing, but you can still see how they're going.
It gives you a level of confidence that they are working.
Yeah,
you know, because people think, and I used to say this, one of my mottos at Microsoft was, work is something I do, it's not a place I go.
Yeah.
Now, that's a bit of a mind shift for people, because people who are thinking about, you know, like, and I'm not being derogatory here, but like somebody in a 1950s manager mindset may be thinking, if you're chained to your desk from 9 to 5, you're being productive. It's not necessarily true. I see a lot of people stuffing around on Facebook and things when they chain to their desk.
Yes.
And some of the people I know who work the longest hours are the least productive people I know. If you look at what's happened in Sweden last week, Sweden announced a 6-hour workday.
No, I didn't hear that. No.
Okay, and the reason why they're doing that is they find if you give someone a certain amount of time to do the work, they get it done in that time. You give them longer, guess what?
They take
longer. There are some people that I used to work with at Microsoft. Trev, I got in there early when I lived on the farm some days, and literally 5:30 in the morning, some of the people are at their desk. 8 o'clock at night, the same people are there. And they were some of the least productive people in the office, but they spent 14, 15, 16 hours a day at Microsoft. And I know what, they thought, I'm going to be here the whole day anyway, so I'm going to take 45 minutes to go and get a cup of coffee. I'm thinking, I want to be out of here by 4 o'clock, princess. I'm swallowing that coffee while it's hot and then powering through, because I know I want to get out of Dodge as soon as possible.
We need to move on to a couple of the other things we're doing with E5, but one of the really interesting discussions I had with Roland this week, we were talking about the office environment at Microsoft when we started to think about the activity-based work environment. So he talked about the negative part of it, but it was really interesting where he talked about that there, like Pip Marlowe, the managing director, she's about, having family, having life.
Yes.
And so it's like most of the people are leaving around 3 o'clock, aren't they?
They do. The rush hour out of Microsoft is 3 o'clock, so people can go and spend 3 to 5 watching their kids play sport or doing an activity with their children. And you'll send them emails. You may not get a response. They'll be on Link, and they could be on Link or Skype on the side of the soccer field. But 7 o'clock that night, they'll respond to your email and do the task that you allocated to them. So it's about work-life integration. I think sometimes work-life balance has gone out the window already. That ship has sailed.
Work-life integration is a better thing. So
work-life integration.
If you've got young kids and you need to be there, if you've got older kids, then it might be you want to work through till 7 o'clock and then go and spend the time with them. So it gives you that flexibility to do it. Really interesting discussions are going along in this activity-based work environments. Things that I've been thinking about to challenge you and your team is to say, let's focus on getting things done. So maybe Fridays, is the day that you do all individual tax returns. You know, me thinking back to them. And set the goal, and if I was in my firm, and say, okay, here's the individual tax. I want you to get these 6 done on Friday. I don't care when you start. Yes. I don't care when you finish. I just want you to get those 6 done. If you need to go at 12 o'clock, come in at 6. If you think you can get them done the day before or on the weekend, all I want to know is by Monday, they're done.
And that is a shift on judging people on output, not on input.
That's a challenge I've set to everybody to give it a go.
Exactly. So I think the challenge with that, Trevor, is to have the technology to be able to get data on your output, not your input, right? So what Microsoft are doing here, when I worked at Microsoft, they had some fantastic tools, and you had little traffic lights, you know, are you red, are you green, are you yellow, where are you traveling, you know, with regard to your output. Have you achieved your goals for the year? Because Microsoft are very much focused on that. Yeah. Your output, if you can do all your work in 3 hours, go home for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I know some people who are really into sailing. One of the guys I know in America, and his job is to try and get all his work done in 3 hours because he sails every afternoon. And he's uncontactable out on the water.
Yeah, and we have to move on this.
Okay, we got to.
As a business owner, if you can get done in 3 hours, what can you get done in 8?
I know.
That's the greedy businessman comes in.
Yeah,
that's the hard part.
We got to balance this. Anyway, I think that Delve Analytics, Trev, is a good start. There's going to be organizational analytics and components added to this now, but there's some good stuff going in there. All right, so that's the first pillar in E5. Second pillar in E5 is something we've been talking about for some time now, and it's on your screen, Power Business Intelligence Pro. With E3, you have Power BI. Right. With E5, you have Power BI Pro. Power BI Pro allows you to analyze a lot more data. This is really for somebody who wants to do some serious analytics and data scientist work. Like when you do use Power BI, there's a limited number of rows within a spreadsheet that you can analyze. There's a limited number of refreshes you get per day for your dashboards.
So cut your teeth now while you're on E3, you're getting to use it.
Yes.
And then when you start to expand, you're going to start to look at the E5 SKU and stuff.
And next week, we're going to talk more about Power BI. We're going to do some Zero Practice Manager integration.
Can you have a mix of in your
office? Yeah, some people on E5, some people on E3 for sure. So, and that brings me to the next thing, you know, which was, if I go back to my presentation here, and the next thing that I was going to look at was the E5 component. So, for example, if you've got a mix of people in your office, Trev, you know what I would do? I would get the people who've got E5 to set up my conference calls, because if I've got E5, I've got that dial-in conferencing integration. So what we're going to get is that telephone number, guys. This is the magic. If you look at your Skype for Business meeting now, there's no telephone number. In E5, I get that telephone number. And I start to get a few more things in here, okay? We got a lot more things around dial-in conferencing, callers who can get in using the phone. The other couple of components in there is cloud-based PBX. Okay, so I'm using an acronym here. PBX is for Private Branch Exchange. You know
I still don't know what that means.
Okay, that little Telstra Optus box that is sitting in your office,
it's
right?
It's for the receptionist to be able to transfer calls.
Yes, but it's a private exchange. So what happens is Telstra will say to you, or Optus will say to you, all right, Trevor, you've got a company. I'll give you the number 9292. The next 4 digits you assign to your people.
Yep.
Okay? So it's a private exchange. And the private exchange is you've got the first subset of numbers 9292. The last 4 digits, you and your team go and say, all right, Trevor, you 9292 11111.
Yep.
1. That's yours. I'm 11112, 1113, 1114, and so on and so forth, right? So the thing about it is it's actually quite an expensive piece of hardware.
Yeah.
It normally take 8 to 10 years to depreciate in value. Mm-hmm. If you set up a new office, it's a big ticket item for you. So what we've been able to do for some time now is use Skype as a private branch exchange. Now, we've only been able to do it on premise.
Yeah.
They've just released as part of E5. It's not fully available in Australia yet. Watch this space. The dialing conferencing is, but on the Skype for Business, the cloud PBX is not yet. It's part of the E5 licensing.
But we need to be aware where they're going with it, Roland, so that we can plan. If we've got an 8-year-old PBX system sitting in the corner and we're talking to Telstra about investing another $20,000-$30,000 in it,
I would be thinking about using a cloud-based PBX at that stage.
Yeah.
If you're in an upgrade cycle, it is an
What's the word
opportune
you said
moment.
before? You sweat the asset.
Sweat the asset. That's exactly it. You've sunk money into it. Like you say, 20, 30K. This is why these things take so long to depreciate. You've sunk 20, 30K into it. Even if you're thinking to yourself, all right, I've got an old Nortel, ShoreTel, Martel, whatever system in there, and it really is looking fairly shonky, and I'm thinking about upgrading it. Let's see if we can sweat it for a few more months until we've got the Skype for Business stuff running nicely in Australia. We want to test it. We want to use it in anger.
It's running in the US, isn't it?
It's running in the US. And you know what? When I rolled this out in 2007 on-premise, okay, but I rolled all of this technology out in 2007 for a big construction firm in Australia. It had like 3,000 users, and they thought to themselves, you know what? The private branch exchanges are costing us too much money. So we're going to use a software-based, because that's really what it is. Skype is looking after it. It's a software-based private branch exchange instead of a hardware-based one. And where this came about was in the early 2000s at Microsoft in Redmond, when you got to move someone from one office to the other, it was costing Microsoft $60 to move a physical computer, and it was costing them $450 in man-hours to move a phone, Trevor. And Microsoft's got like 200,000 staff, and the guys there just thought, well, this is crazy.
Yeah.
How can I justify $450 to move a phone and $60 to move an entire computer, which as a business workload does so very much more.
But even now, it's totally, even again, now we're looking at to move an office. We've had some of our firms, moving offices is just everybody pack up your computer and everything. Your desk will be in your office next week,
and the phones
take a bit of time and a bit of planning. So we've got to think about that.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, if I put the private branch exchange in the cloud, it not only means that office is easy to move, but I can quickly and easily build virtual other offices in the cloud.
So you'll use your Skype for Business for a telephone.
Yes.
And you'll be able to ring landlines, ring mobiles, ring other Skype people, ring Skype for Business people, because you can ring Skype people now already.
Yes.
Use all that for your telephone. When someone dials into the office, rings a number that gets allocated to you, that will then ring
on whatever device you're running Skype on.
All of them, or can you choose?
So you can set it up in Skype. You can do multiple ringing, or simultaneous ringing is what it's called.
Yeah.
So if I've got my phone, my laptop, and my tablet all connected to Skype, they could all ring at the same time.
Yeah, but what about if I want a receptionist?
Okay, so there is a thing in Skype where you can actually have a receptionist set up, and they will ring that receptionist number, and they can transfer it to you. So this is not fully baked and not fully available in Australia
but
yet.
It's good to know that it's coming.
It's coming.
It's amazing to know that it's coming.
So that is PSTN, or Public Switch Telephone Network, again with the acronyms, I'm sorry, PSTN Integration. But you can do it. When I was at Microsoft, I had a telephone number, and no matter where I was in the world, I actually never had a telephone, right? That telephone number came to Skype. No matter where I was in the world connected to Skype, if you rang that telephone number, it went all around the world and found me wherever I was, whether I was in Sydney, Singapore, or Seattle, my Skype client rang.
Yeah.
When I was at Dimension Data, we had the same thing. So this technology has been around a while. The issue is running it in the cloud. That's been the bit of a technical hiccup, and there's some political hiccups in getting the solution to market in Australia. As we see, we've got it in the UK and the US already. Okay? So anybody is becoming a nomad. This is perfect for you because people think you've got a landline. And it's not. They say, I called your number in Sydney, 0292921111, and you answered it, and you're in Whoop Whoop, you're in Timbuktu, you're in Outer Mongolia, you're in Bali. I don't care where you are. you've got this concept of single number reach, and it uses it's not that they will end up paying international fees, because it uses the least hop routing on the Microsoft network, and then what I'm going to call an egress point, which is a point at which you leave the network and join the local.
We use VoIP now.
Yes.
I use VoIP now, but I find it difficult to use because it's not integrated into my Skype for Business.
Yes.
I'm using Skype for Business for most telephone calls now. Occasionally, if I need to, I'll ring someone on the mobile, and most people call me on the mobile if they, because they know they can get there. But, we've got Robbie over in New Zealand. He calls me on, and I'll pick it up. It'll come through on my phone, or it'll come through. I can talk in the car. I can do anything with Skype for Business now, which is
That's okay, but those are people who've normally got Skype for Business and are doing voice over IP.
But that's
calls.
got a way to go. That's got a long time.
So this PST Integration, I like this, and I think it'll really increase the functionality of the tools for us. Okay, so guys, keep your eye out for this. This is stuff that is in Office 3. It's in Office 365. Like, it was released on Thursday. We're configuring it and setting up the dial-in conferencing component. We are hoping to get it up this week, but we had some issues around getting the new licensing. And to be fair, we're trying to run it. I tried to set it up on Thursday afternoon when it was released on Thursday morning. So this is okay, but I'm just like that. That's in my nature. I just want to, let's see how it works. Let's see how it works. They released it today, so I'm jumping all over it. We're going to be looking at moving some of you guys to E5, especially the ones who are doing international conferences at the moment. What I want to be able to give you is local dial-in numbers. So Trev, next week we're going to be talking about dashboards and that, but I'm just going to jump over to Trevor. Trevor, do you want to present your desktop? I got some questions. What happens with pricing as we're moving up to E5? There is a change in your license from E3, which is an enterprise level enterprise level agreement, to an E5 agreement. So there is an increase, Andrew, in the cost of your subscription, because we're adding a whole bunch more functionality onto that. So, yep, there's going to be a cost. Off the top of my head, it's going to be around $30, I think, $20, $30, the difference between the two. So you can look it up online, but it'll be part of your subscription with RIPE, who is our licensing partner. And RIPE's picked up 3 awards as a licensing partner, an amazing accomplishment
our main
this week.
Partner, it's fantastic.
Okay, so check out some of the stuff on E5, guys. E5 is about not just the voice and the dial-in conferencing. It is also about the Delve Analytics, the Power BI, and then the voice stuff. But I do believe that it is, what we've seen Microsoft's productivity suite with all of the bells and whistles that I have been able to do on-premise some time ago, now available. Trevor's presenting his slides, and it isn't quite coming up yet, Trevor, and I'm not
might
sure
be too much resolution.
All right, it could be high resolution. But yes, it's cost benefits for telecoms. That's exactly it. So, you've got to compare like for like here. Guys, you've got to say, well, how much is my telephony infrastructure costing me now? And if I shift that cost across into a cloud-based solution, what are my savings going to be? So you've got to look at what you've got. Oh, that's coming up beautifully. And you've got to look at...
So just while Roland's talking to you, that photo, that's Pip Marlowe. She's the managing director of Microsoft, and in her keynote presentation, that was one of her slides, where HubOne, RIPE, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants got a huge mention, which is very proud of.
Guys, when I was at Microsoft have got about 14,000 partners in Australia. Now that's, like I say, from 5-man bands to 1,500 people in an organization, like Data, 3, Datacom, or SMS, something like that. So as one of 3 partners mentioned in the keynote, it is a coup d'etat for HubOne. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. Okay?
That photo's a little bit behind time. It'll become a bit bigger, but that was just showing all the crowd, and those of you that go to Xerocon, Rod Drury was having a bit of a competition with us about how many people are attending Xerocon versus APC. So,
yeah. Andrew, there will definitely be costs in making outbound calls. I'm not sure. That is one of the issues that they're busy dealing with now. So technically, we can do the solution. Andrew, if I had an answer to your question, man, I would love to be able to do that. But we're up here to try and get those answers to those exact questions. And we've got to figure out, it's the Pstn integration, the public switch telephone network integration, that it hasn't been released yet because I think that those are the things that they're trying to knock out now. So trust me, as soon as we get this, we were hoping to talk about this in the podcast today. I was hoping I'd have answers for you today, but I don't have answers for you today. So all I can do is apologize and say, let's do dial-in conferencing today, fellas. And watch this space, cloud-based PBX and public switch telephone network integration. There is an additional cost for the PSTN integration stuff per user over and above the E5 SKU. Okay? So we do, just to clarify, E5 includes dialing conferencing, cloud-based PBX, however, public switch telephone network integration, the ability to make inbound and outbound calls over Telstra Optus's copper cable network to traditional landlines and traditional mobile networks comes at an additional cost. And as soon as we know, people, you will be the first to know. Okay, but at the moment, I don't have the answers. Trevor doesn't have the answers. And the people that we are asking at Microsoft are still in negotiation on exactly how to bring this to market.
Exactly.
So watch this space, folks. But I do believe that this is going to revolutionize, and I don't use that term lightly, the telephony industry in Australia. Yep. There are new players coming into the market. Look at what's happening in the press, and this could be some very exciting stuff.
There's some other announcements HubOne are making today we can't talk about, but
right now. But watch the press over the next few days. We've been working very closely to make sure that we can provide enterprise-grade telephony solutions to small, medium businesses and practices in Australia in the same way that we've been providing enterprise-grade cloud solutions that were previously only available to the big end of town, and we want to bring it and make it available to everybody through, the term is democratization of IT. So, guys, that is it from Trevor and myself on the Gold Coast. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being in the same room with you, Trevor.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, everybody, and have an awesome week. We will keep your eye on Twitter. There'll be lots of stuff out there too, as well, to keep an eye on what we've been up to over here in the Gold Coast.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Cheers, guys.
See you then.
Cheers.